Hi, this is Jessica DeMassa, and I'm here at Health Datapalooza. I'm here with Candi Castleberry-Singleton. She is the Vice President for Intersectionality, Culture, and Diversity at Twitter. So welcome, good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and the Twitter handle is @Candi, so if you want to see her, it's C-A-N-D-I, is that right?
Correct.
All right, awesome.
Very good.
So I'm going to jump in and just, for a healthcare audience here, the term intersectionality may be a little bit new. So can you explain to me what that is?
So there are many terms that you could use. The way that we describe it is an opportunity for us to think about the things that we can't see and making and building relationships based on things we can and that we cannot see. So I am Candi, @Candi. I self-identify as Black, female, and I am Vice President at Twitter. But the things you cannot see is that I'm a daughter, and I am an activist. I'm a volunteer. Sales and marketing is my background. And if you try to make a connection with me on things just that you can see, then sometimes you maybe choose not to build a relationship with me. But if you are willing to look beyond that, see that and these other things, perhaps we might find ways to find common ground beyond just the things that you see.
So it's unusual, I think, to have somebody from Twitter here talking specifically about that at a healthcare conference. Why are you here? Why do we need to hear this in healthcare?
Where is intersectionality more important than in healthcare? I mean, I think when you think about all the people in the world, right, who come to a healthcare system, who show up in a way that perhaps you see them, but you don't actually know them. And so oftentimes faith may be one of the largest decision-making criteria is in healthcare, and oftentimes we don't even think about that as diversity, and yet it may be the very thing that guides their decisions for sickness, dying, and death. And although I spent 8 years in healthcare doing diversity, it was really about thinking about how we create interactions that, with our similarities and differences, that people felt that they were treated with dignity and respect by the people who were providing services and care to them, as well as ensuring that every person at every level in the organization felt treated with dignity and respect. And it's actually a form of diversity, but it actually is the experience that you have with diversity, and it's an opportunity, I think, for all of us.
How do we do this? Like, how do we remain mindful of this? How do we integrate this into the things that we're building in healthcare, especially on like the startup side or things that are new, or even some of the legacy companies like health insurance companies? How do they think about this?
I think that we make it harder than it has to be. So I often ask people to raise their hand if they believe they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and everybody raises their hand. Then I ask the second question, raise your hand if you believe that you treat everyone with dignity and respect. And then people raise their hands, and maybe not all of them go up, maybe not as high, and I make a little side joke to say somebody in this room is saying somebody else in this room shouldn't be raising their hand. And so it is because of our basic human interactions, and if we truly are committed to ensuring that we want a diverse interaction and dignity and respect in that interaction, then we should also ensure that it's not a part-time thing. It's not something that people want sometime. It's not something people want when you're in a good mood. It's what people want all the time. And so at Twitter, although our efforts are not specifically focused at dignity and respect, it's about how do we build deeper connections beyond just that we can see? How do we create a culture where all of our differences are a part of the organization, and that whatever your difference is, that even though we may disagree, that we can still be respectful in that environment, as well as how do we ensure that we do a good job in not only creating a culture where people feel that they can be different, but also a culture where I can work there and be different. So you get a diverse culture, you get a diverse workforce, and ultimately if we can role model the very thing that needs to exist in the world inside of our organization, we can tell that story, and perhaps people will follow us as a result of it, of our behavior and our activities that are happening for diversity and inclusion inside of Twitter, as well as they will do it on Twitter.
Fantastic. I mean, I think too, within healthcare, we always talk about, everybody is a consumer of healthcare. Everybody is a patient at one point or another. So how do we stay mindful of these things? I guess when we're experiencing, like, we're working in this industry and we're also consuming what comes out of it. How do we ensure that respect and dignity are included in not only the way we approach healthcare from a job standpoint, but also from the way that we consume it?
Right. Well, I think that it almost doesn't matter what faith or what family or geographic environment that you come from, most people are raised with the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Sure.
I think the distinction is treat others the way they want to be treated. And I think if you can just remain mindful of what that means, and if you don't fully understand it, if you're willing just to ask, most people understand that you don't know everything about their culture. But rather than to make an assumption about what you think you know, most people will tell you, this is what my faith is, and this is what I believe, or this is what my culture is, and this is what I believe. And if you can take that into consideration in the experience of healthcare, just imagine what it does to not only your HCAP scores, but imagine what it does just to your personal interactions with people in general.
Last question for you on that. You know, we're in a time right now where everybody's looking at data and bringing in all of these data points, and these data points are going to tell everybody everything about you. How do we make sure that we stay mindful of this, I guess, this softer side of like who you are and the things that can be reduced down to data, your religion, your sex, your gender, all these things? How do we make sure that we keep, I guess, these other perspectives into I guess, top of mind as we're starting to make assumptions about broad sets of data and assumptions about populations?
Right. Well, I think we should never allow data to define who a human is. And simply because I may have to check a box that maybe the government, maybe healthcare is asking me to check to help whatever you need to do with that data, whether it is for research, whether it is to ensure that you know enough about me to provide me the best care, because perhaps maybe some condition may affect me and populations like me differently. I'm still human first. Before you see any of that data, I'm human. And I think if we can get back to a place where we're treating people respectfully as humans, then the data becomes second as opposed to leading with the data, as opposed to, in fact, I think if we can get to a place where we lead with human connections rather than data, I think it just will make the world a better place and create a better experience, whether you're a patient or a customer or just a colleague.
Candi, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. It's so refreshing to hear somebody talk about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Follow her on Twitter at Candi, C-A-N-D-I, right?
Very good.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Jessica DeMassa here at Health Datapalooza.